I want to be very clear that this isn't some story I made up for clicks. This is a true account of what happened between me and my sister, and it's something I've carried with me every single day since. It all started in the apartment we shared, with the glow of my phone screen lighting up the dark living room. My banking app was open, displaying a number that made my heart hammer against my ribs. A direct deposit of $18,952.37. It was my 2-year project bonus, the sum of 1,000 sleepless nights and sacrificed weekends, the seed money for my entire future. I was practically vibrating with excitement. I jumped off the couch to find my sister Jessica to share the news that would finally change our lives. I found her in her bedroom, shoving clothes haphazardly into a duffel bag, her face pale, and her eyes wide with a frantic energy I didn't recognize. Before I could even speak, she saw the look on my face and cut me off. "Chloe, something's happened," she whispered, her voice cracking. "It's Mom. She fell. It's bad. I have to go home right now." The next morning, I woke up to a notification from my bank. It was a fraud alert. My stomach plunged as I fumbled for my phone. The $18,452.37 was gone, wired in the dead of night, to an external account I had never seen before. Jessica was gone, too. Her room was empty, her phone was off, and a single, chilling realization washed over me. My mother was perfectly fine, and my sister had just stolen my entire future. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel, tell us where you're from, and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. The first call was to my mom. Her voice was cheerful, normal. She was at her weekly bridge game, and no, she hadn't fallen. She hadn't even heard from Jessica. The lie was so blatant, so cruel, that it took my breath away. The second call was to my bank's fraud department. The woman on the other end of the line, a patient but firm agent named Maria, walked me through the transfer details. It had been initiated at 2:17 a.m. from my own IP address. It was authenticated using my password and a 2-factor verification code sent directly to my registered phone number. "From our end, Ms. Evans, this looks like a legitimate transfer you authorized," she explained, her tone laced with professional pity. "The funds were moved to a newly opened digital wallet and then immediately liquidated into cryptocurrency. It's virtually untraceable without a confession or direct evidence of coercion." I sank onto my worn-out IKEA couch, the phone feeling like a block of ice against my ear. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't a hacker from across the world. The thief had been in my apartment. They had my password. They had held my physical phone in their hands. The circle of suspects contained only one person, my own sister. I felt a wave of nausea so profound I had to hang up. I stumbled through our small 2-bedroom apartment in Austin, a place we'd picked out together in a fit of optimistic, sisterly bonding. It was in the vibrant South Congress neighborhood, a place I could barely afford, even with her contributing rent. Now, the cheerful, quirky art on the walls seemed to mock me. My mind raced back over the past few weeks, seeing everything through a new, sickening lens. Jessica's sudden, intense interest in my bonus. "When exactly does it hit your account, Chloe? To the day? Are you sure it's that much after taxes? That's amazing! What bank do you use again? Are they good with big transfers?" I had seen it as sisterly support. Now I saw it as reconnaissance. I remembered the night before how she'd insisted on ordering pizza and watching a movie. She'd accidentally spilled a Coke on my phone, grabbing it with a frantic apology and rushing to the kitchen to clean it, disappearing with it for a full 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Long enough to install a keylogger? To forward texts to another number? I felt impossibly stupid. She had used my love for her, my trust in her, as a weapon. For 2 days, I lived in a fog of disbelief. I called her phone 100 times, each call going to a dead, silent voicemail. I texted her, long, rambling messages that started with confusion. "Jess, where are you? The money is gone. I don't understand." Shifted to pleading. "Please, Just tell me this is a mistake. We can fix this. And finally hardened into accusation. I know you did this. How could you? There was no reply. The silence was her confession. On the third day, a registered letter was taped to our apartment door. It was a formal notice from the landlord. Jessica had apparently stopped by the leasing office the day she left, paid her final portion of the rent in cash, and had her name legally removed from our lease, citing a family emergency and permanent relocation. She had severed every tie, every point of legal or financial leverage I had over her. She hadn't just run, she had systematically erased herself from my life, leaving me to hold the bag for the full $2,400 monthly rent, a sum I absolutely could not afford on my own. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the dark, scrolling through my own social media, looking at old photos of us as kids, with matching pigtails and missing teeth, us at my college graduation, her arm slung around my shoulder, a proud, beaming smile on her face. Was it all a lie? Had this jealousy, this capacity for cold-blooded betrayal, been festering inside her all along? The grief was a physical weight, pressing down on my chest until I could barely breathe. The sister I loved was a phantom, and in her place was a monster who had looked me in the eye, feigned concern for our mother's health, and then vanished into the night with every dollar I had. I was alone, broke, and on the verge of being evicted, all because I had trusted the one person on earth I thought I never had to doubt. I felt the first real flicker of something other than pain, a cold, quiet rage. She thought she could just disappear. She thought she had won. She had no idea who I was when I was backed into a corner. The bank's investigation went nowhere, just as Maria had predicted. Without proof of a forced confession, the digital paper trail was perfect. It was my device, my IP address, and my authenticated codes. It was, for all legal purposes, my transfer. The case was closed within a week. I was left with nothing but a hollowed-out savings account and a lease I couldn't possibly afford. The humiliation was a constant, bitter taste in my mouth. I had to call my parents and explain what happened. The strained silence on the other end of the line was agonizing. They loved us both, and the idea that one of their daughters had done this to the other was something their minds just couldn't process. They offered to help, but they were retired, living on a fixed income. I couldn't burden them. This was my mess to clean up. The first step was survival. I immediately posted an ad for a roommate, praying I could find someone sane and trustworthy on short notice. I started picking up freelance coding projects, working late into the night after my demanding day job, my eyes burning from staring at the screen for 16 hours a day. Sleep became a luxury. My diet consisted of instant noodles and cheap coffee. The vibrant life I had been building in Austin withered away, replaced by a grueling, monotonous cycle of work and worry. About 2 weeks after she vanished, Jessica finally surfaced. She called from a blocked number. Her voice was a strange mix of defensive and saccharine. "Chloe, I know you're mad," she began, no apology, no preamble. "But you don't understand what I was up against. I made a bad investment, a really bad one. These people, they were dangerous. They were threatening the family. I had to get the money to make them go away. I did it to protect us." It was the flimsiest, most insulting lie I had ever heard. Loan sharks who are conveniently paid off with the exact amount of a sister's bonus and then allow you to go on a shopping spree? It was a story crafted by a child. "Where are you, Jessica?" I asked, my voice flat, devoid of the emotion she was expecting. "I can't say," she said quickly. "It's safer this way, but listen, I will pay you back, every single penny. I just need some time to get back on my feet." She was trying to placate me, to buy my silence. She wanted me to believe her sob story so I wouldn't go to the police, so I wouldn't tell the whole family. But I knew her too well. The fake tremor in her voice, the carefully chosen words, it was a performance. I hung up without another word. My curiosity, however, was a sharp, painful hook. I couldn't help myself. I logged onto Instagram. Her profile, once private, was now wide open, a curated showcase of her new life. She wasn't hiding in fear. She was in Miami Beach, living a life funded by my sweat and tears. The pictures were a series of calculated slaps in the face. There was Jessica, clinking champagne glasses on a yacht, the Biscayne Bay sparkling behind her. Tagged at a table at Joe's Stone Crab, a place where a single meal costs more than my weekly grocery budget. Posing with a new Louis Vuitton bag in the design district, the price tag of which would have covered my rent for a month. Each post was a dagger. She wasn't just spending my money, she was flaunting it, rubbing my nose in her betrayal. She was building a new identity online, a self-made, successful woman living a glamorous life. And the foundation of that identity was my stolen future. The rage that had been a flicker now ignited into a steady, burning fire. Then I saw it, a picture that stopped my heart. It was a photo of a car, a breathtakingly beautiful, fully restored 1966 Ford Mustang convertible, painted in a gleaming cherry red. It was parked in front of a high-end classic car dealership in Miami. Jessica wasn't in the photo, but the caption was all her. "One day, you will be mine. Dream car, manifesting, Mustang girl." I remembered that car. It was the only thing she had ever truly wanted. Since we were teenagers, she had been obsessed with it. She had a poster of it on her wall, a model of it on her desk. It was her ultimate symbol of success, of freedom, of having made it. Seeing that post, I realized the depth of her delusion. She didn't feel a shred of guilt. In her mind, she deserved that money. She deserved that car. She deserved that life. And I was just an obstacle she had neatly removed. I stared at the picture of the red Mustang, its polished chrome glinting in the Florida sun. An idea began to form in the darkest corner of my mind. It was a terrible, beautiful, intricate idea. She wanted her dream car? Fine. I was going to make sure she got it. The bank's final dismissive email was the official end of one chapter and the beginning of another. My claim was denied. My money was gone. The system had failed me. That night, kneeling on my living room floor, surrounded by stacks of overdue bills, something inside me broke. The grief, the sadness, the feeling of being a victim. It all evaporated, leaving behind something cold, clear, and hard as diamond. I was done crying. I was going to get my money back, and I was going to do it by destroying the one thing Jessica valued more than anything, her carefully constructed image. Her dream car was the key. For the next 3 months, my life became a study in asceticism and obsession. I found a roommate, a quiet nursing student who was barely ever home. I sold my couch, my television, anything that wasn't essential. Every single dollar I didn't spend on rent or instant ramen went into a new, secret bank account. I worked my day job with ferocious efficiency, then came home and coded for freelance clients until my vision blurred, often falling asleep at my desk for an hour or two before starting all over again. I was a machine fueled by caffeine and rage. During my rare moments of downtime, I wasn't resting. I was studying. I became an amateur expert on Texas vehicle titles, on the predatory practices of title loan companies, on tax law concerning prizes and giveaways. I spent hours on the phone with crusty old car dealers, learning the ins and outs of the classic Mustang market. I learned that a 1966 convertible in pristine condition, like the one Jessica had posted, was valued at around $40,000, a sum I could realistically save if I completely immolated my life for the next year. But I wasn't going to wait that long. The plan required speed and audacity. One night, scrolling through my sister's ever more smug social media feed, I saw the post that sealed her fate. It was a selfie of her, smiling her perfect white-toothed smile, holding a glass of wine. The caption read, "Some people work hard, I work smart, extra blessed." That was it. That was the final push. The sheer, unadulterated arrogance of it. She was taunting me, believing herself to be completely untouchable. That night, I made a decision. I took the meager $4,000 I had managed to scrape together, and instead of putting it toward my own survival, I used it to hire a lawyer to draft the documents for a single-purpose LLC. I called it Red Dream Holdings. It had no assets and no history. It was a ghost, a corporate shell with a P.O. box address in a town I'd never been to. Next, I took out the largest personal loan my bank would approve, leveraging my perfect credit score and stable job history. They gave me $35,000. It was a terrifying gamble. If my plan failed, I wouldn't just be broke, I would be in crippling debt for the next decade. There was no safety net. With the money secured, I began my hunt. I found the perfect car at a specialty dealer in Dallas, a 1966 Mustang convertible, cherry red with a white leather interior. It was identical to the one in her picture. It cost $38,500. I negotiated in cash and bought it outright under the LLC's name. For one dizzying afternoon, I was the owner of my sister's dream. I drove it from Dallas back to a secure storage unit I'd rented on the outskirts of Austin. It handled like a dream. The irony was so thick it was almost suffocating. The final piece of the initial setup was the most important. I found what I was looking for online, a title loan company based out of state with a reputation for being ruthless. They were legal, but just barely. I used the Mustang's clean title, held by my LLC, as collateral for a $30,000 loan. The interest rate was astronomical. The terms were draconian. I made the first monthly payment of $1,200 in advance. The loan documents were now inextricably tied to the car's title. The trap was built. Now, I just needed the bait. Using a new untraceable email address under the guise of my LLC, I drafted a proposal. I sent it to the CEO of the mid-sized, aggressively ambitious marketing firm where Jessica worked, Vantage Marketing Solutions. The proposal was for a high-visibility promotional giveaway. Red Dream Holdings, I explained, was an investment group looking to generate local buzz. We would provide the grand prize, a fully restored classic Ford Mustang, if Vantage Marketing would handle the campaign and the event. And, I added, we had already identified the perfect employee to be the face of this campaign. A charismatic, media-savvy young woman whose passion for this exact car was already a part of her public brand, Jessica Taylor. Jessica's boss, a man named Alan Croft, was exactly the type of person I thought he would be. Driven, ambitious, and utterly seduced by the prospect of free, high-profile publicity. The idea of a luxury car giveaway, sponsored by a mysterious investment group, was too good to pass up. He called the number for the burner phone I had set up for Red Dream Holdings. I used a voice modulator, pitching my voice lower and adding a crisp, professional distortion. I introduced myself as the project manager for the LLC. Alan didn't ask too many questions about who we were. Why would he? I was handing him a golden goose. He saw a win-win. His company gets a massive PR boost, and all he had to do was manage the logistics. The most delicious part of the trap was that I knew Jessica's ego would do most of the work for me. When Alan presented the idea to her, she must have felt like the universe was finally rewarding her for her supposed brilliance. A secret admirer, a wealthy benefactor, had seen her Instagram post and decided to make her the star of a citywide campaign to give away her dream car. It was the ultimate validation of her life philosophy, that good things should just come to her effortlessly. She probably saw it as a direct path to the car itself. Surely, as the face of the campaign, she'd be the one to win it, right? She convinced Alan and the partners at Vantage that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. She would be the perfect ambassador. Within a week, contracts were signed between Vantage Marketing and my Ghost LLC. I insisted on a few key clauses, burying them in dense legalese. Red Dream Holdings would remain anonymous to the public, referred to only as a private benefactor. We would have final approval on all marketing materials, and most importantly, the car's title and all associated paperwork would be transferred to the winner as is at the moment of the public ceremony. Alan's lawyers glanced over it, saw nothing out of the ordinary, and signed. The campaign, which Jessica herself helped design, was nauseatingly effective. They called it the Vantage Dream Drive. My sister's smiling face was suddenly everywhere. On billboards along I-35, Jessica Taylor wants to give you the keys to a classic. On slick, targeted social media ads. She even did a segment on a local morning show, Good Day Austin, where she talked with phony sincerity about the power of dreaming big. She sat in a studio, bathed in bright lights, and told the story of how she'd loved this car since she was a little girl. It just goes to show, she said, looking directly into the camera with a beatific smile, that if you put your desires out into the universe, it really does listen. I watched the segment on my laptop in my dark apartment, eating a bowl of plain oatmeal. The universe wasn't listening. I was. And I was taking notes. She was making herself the center of the story, just as I had predicted. The public narrative became less about a company giving away a car and more about Jessica Taylor, the local marketing guru who was so inspiring she'd attracted a secret benefactor to make a dream come true. The contest was a simple online entry form designed to harvest emails for Vantage's marketing lists. Thousands of people signed up, each one dreaming of winning the red Mustang. But the winner had already been decided. The terms of the contest, which no one ever reads, included a standard clause that the sponsoring company's employees were not eligible to win, except for one. A tiny addendum, added at my insistence, stated that the designated campaign ambassador was exempt from this rule. In fact, to ensure brand consistency, the ambassador would be given a weighted, preferential entry. The fix was in. Jessica was going to win her own rigged contest. The grand finale was scheduled for a Friday afternoon in the middle of October. Vantage planned to shut down a portion of the street in front of their downtown office on 6th Street. They had a stage built, hired a local band, and invited every media outlet in the city. It was going to be the biggest moment of Jessica's life. The week before the event, I put the final pieces in motion. I sent a package via messenger to the escrow agent handling the title transfer. It contained the car's title, the fully executed title loan agreement showing a $30,000 lien against the vehicle, and a cover letter from Red Dream Holdings instructing them to place all documents inside the final winner's packet. Then I prepared a second package. This one contained a single, certified letter. It was from the IRS. It wasn't a real IRS letter, of course, but it was a perfectly crafted replica of a Form 1099 MESC, the kind used to report prize winnings. I had filled it out, reporting a prize value of $40,000 awarded to Jessica Taylor. By law, this prize money is considered taxable income. At her likely tax bracket, she would owe the federal government somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000. Immediately. I wasn't going to mail it yet. That was for after the celebration. For now, I just had to watch my sister walk happily toward the edge of the cliff I had so carefully built for her. The day of the event was classic Austin, bright, sunny, and buzzing with energy. By the time I arrived, the crowd was already huge. College students, downtown office, workers on their lunch break, news crews with their imposing cameras, all packed into the blocked-off section of 6th Street. A terrible cover band was playing a generic pop song on the stage, and the Vantage marketing logo was plastered everywhere. It felt like a festival celebrating my sister's ego. I was anonymous in the crowd, wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses, my heart thumping a slow, heavy rhythm against my ribs. Part of me was terrified. What if I missed a detail? What if their lawyers had caught something? But a larger part of me felt a profound, chilling calm. I had built this. Every smiling face, every camera flash, every cheer was a part of a grand machine of my own design, and it was all pointed squarely at Jessica. She finally made her entrance, walking onto the stage like a returning queen. She was wearing a sleek, expensive-looking white dress, her hair perfectly styled. She radiated confidence. She waved to the crowd, took the microphone from her boss, and launched into a speech she had clearly rehearsed for weeks. She talked about dreams, passion, and the power of marketing to connect people with their aspirations. It was a masterclass in corporate nonsense, but the crowd ate it up. "This campaign was never just about a car," she said, her voice ringing with false emotion. "It was about reminding everyone in this amazing city that it's okay to want beautiful things, to dream big, and to chase those dreams with everything you've got." The irony was so thick, I felt like I could choke on it. Her boss, Alan Croft, then took the mic to announce the winner. He spoke about the thousands of entries, the incredible online engagement. He dramatically held up a sealed envelope. "But our secret benefactor, the generous group who made this all possible, included a special provision," he announced, beaming. They felt that no one embodied the spirit of this campaign more than its ambassador, Jessica Taylor, and they insisted that she be given a special chance to win. And, ladies and gentlemen, it seems the universe agreed. He tore open the envelope and bellowed, "The winner of the 1966 Ford Mustang is Jessica Taylor." The crowd roared. Confetti cannons exploded, showering the stage in shimmering paper. Jessica put her hands over her mouth in a perfect pantomime of shock and disbelief, tears welling in her eyes, as if she hadn't known this was coming all along. It was the best acting she'd ever done. The car was rolled onto the street from a side alley. It was magnificent. The sunlight caught the cherry-red paint, and the chrome gleamed so brightly it hurt to look at. It was the physical manifestation of her greed, and it was beautiful. She practically floated off the stage toward it. Alan handed her a large presentation folder and a giant, comical key. "Just a few papers to sign for the title transfer from the benefactor, and it's all yours," he said, guiding her to a small table set up right in front of the car. The news cameras swarmed, their lenses tight on her face. She was so caught up in the moment, so high on the applause and adoration, that she barely glanced at the documents she was signing. She just scrawled her name wherever a yellow "Sign Here" sticker was placed. She was signing the title transfer, accepting ownership of the car, and she was also signing the acknowledgement of the $30,000 lien attached to it. She hugged her boss, she blew kisses to the crowd, she slid into the driver's seat, running her hands over the white leather steering wheel. She looked out at the sea of faces, at the flashing cameras, at the city that now saw her as a star, and her smile was the most triumphant, smug, and hate-filled thing I had ever seen. She believed, in that perfect sun-drenched moment, that she had gotten away with everything and had been rewarded for it. She had no idea that she wasn't sitting in her dream car. She was sitting in a foreclosure notice with 4 wheels. The fallout wasn't immediate. For a few days, Jessica was the toast of the town. Her Instagram was flooded with pictures of her in the Mustang. Her victory was covered on the local news and in Austin business blogs. Vantage Marketing's phones were ringing off the hook with potential new clients. From the outside, my plan looked like a resounding success for everyone, especially my sister. But I had planted seeds with very specific germination periods. The first one sprouted a week after the event. A thick, menacing welcome packet arrived at her apartment from the Apex Title Loan Corporation. It contained a detailed breakdown of the $30,000 lien she had legally assumed when she signed the title transfer. It congratulated her on becoming their newest client and politely informed her that her first monthly payment of $1,200, a sum I knew she couldn't possibly afford, was due in 3 weeks. The interest rate, the letter cheerfully explained, was a tidy 300% APR. I can only imagine the cold dread that must have washed over her as she read it, the frantic call to Vantage, the confused, then horrified conversations with Alan Croft and the company's lawyers as they realized the benefactor had gifted them a Trojan horse. The prize that had generated so much positive press was, in fact, a massive, predatory debt. The story started to leak. A local journalist who had covered the giveaway got an anonymous tip from a burner email I'd set up months ago, suggesting he look into the car's title history. The resulting article was a masterpiece of schadenfreude. Dream car giveaway turns into nightmare of debt for local marketing exec, the headline screamed. The story painted Vantage Marketing as either incompetent fools or willing participants in a cruel hoax. Their clients started to panic. The positive buzz they had gained overnight curdled into a PR catastrophe. While Jessica was still reeling from that, the second seed sprouted. I mailed the perfectly forged 1099 MESC form. It arrived looking like any other bland, terrifying piece of mail from the IRS. It informed her in cold bureaucratic language that she was liable for income tax on a prize valued at $40,000. She owed the government an estimated $10,000 payable immediately. Penalties and interest would accrue if she was late, so now she was on the hook for a $30,000 high-interest loan and a $10,000 tax bill, all for a car she couldn't even afford to put gas in. Her dream had a price tag of $40,000, and the bill was due. Her world collapsed with breathtaking speed. Vantage Marketing, facing a potential lawsuit and a full-blown media crisis, fired her, issuing a public statement that they had been deceived by all parties involved and that Ms. Taylor had been terminated for her role in the fiasco. Her face, once plastered on billboards celebrating success, was now the face of a local scandal. The comments on her social media turned from adoration to vicious mockery. She was a meme, a joke, a cautionary tale. She couldn't make the first payment on the title loan, of course. A week after the due date, in the dead of night, a tow truck from Apex quietly repossessed the cherry red Mustang from the parking lot of her apartment complex. She owned it for less than a month. That night, she called me. It wasn't from a blocked number this time. Her name flashed on my screen, and I answered, holding the phone to my ear without a word. The voice on the other end was not the smug, confident woman from the stage. It was a shrieking, unhinged howl of pure rage. She screamed at me, called me every name I had ever heard, accused me of ruining her life. She knew. She didn't know how, but she knew it was me. "How could you do this to me? I'm your sister," she finally sobbed, her voice raw and broken. I let the silence hang in the air for a long moment, savoring the sound of her world burning to the ground. Then, in the calmest, coldest voice I could manage, I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about. Some people work hard, others work smart, right?" I hung up and blocked her number for good. The aftermath was quiet. Jessica disappeared from public life as quickly as she had appeared. Her social media accounts were deleted. According to a mutual acquaintance, she was completely ruined. Her credit was destroyed, she owed a fortune to the IRS, and her reputation in the Austin marketing world was toxic. She lost her apartment and had to crawl back to our parents, defeated and penniless, forced to invent a story about being the victim of a complex corporate scam. I don't know if they believed her, but what could they do? She was still their daughter. As for me, my life slowly began to rebuild. I never saw a dime of the original $18,000, but the freelance work I had taken on to fund my revenge plan had an unexpected side effect. I built a strong portfolio and a network of clients. I was offered a new, higher-paying job at a rival tech firm. The grueling hours I had put in for the sake of vengeance had inadvertently catapulted my career forward. A year after Jessica's spectacular downfall, I used the money I had earned to finally make a down payment on a small condo of my own in a quiet neighborhood far from the noise and memories of downtown. It wasn't a mansion, but it was mine. Every inch of it was paid for with my own work, my own resilience. Sometimes when I'm driving home from work, I'll see a classic Mustang on the road, and for a fleeting second my heart will catch in my throat. I don't feel triumph. I don't feel joy or satisfaction. I just feel a profound and chilling quiet. The love I had for my sister, the bond I thought was unbreakable, was just another debt to be paid. She had stolen my money, but I had sold her a dream, and the debt came with a lifetime of interest. The end.